And after we became masters at identifying elements at any time with any application and any automation testing tool, we finally got into the meat of the framework design. Armed with all the tools at our disposal, we were ready to go into battle and create one of the best automation testing frameworks ever. So this framework, I call it the Light POM framework, POM for Page Object Model framework. And I call it light because it actually is very light, which were some of the benefits that we discussed. In that this framework is very easy to set up, it is very quick and easy to start writing tests, and it's easy to understand. One of the main driving principles that we use throughout this framework and that we should use for any framework is the test-driven development practice, where our automated tests drive the development of our framework. And so we did that throughout our automation framework development, and our framework came out really, really nice. Some of the negatives of this framework that we looked at was that it makes some things very tough, like how do you do cross-browser testing? How do you get it to run in an automated manner? And there is no visual representation of all of the tests that exist in the framework, right? You actually have to open the framework and the code to look at all of the tests that are in there. So it's kind of tough for automation testers and manual testers to see all of the tests that are there and all the functionality that are covered. But it doesn't matter because it can later be extended for your needs. This framework is just like a groundstone that gets you to do what you need to do. You need to write tests, you need to get them to run, and it works. And after that, you can extend the framework into whatever place you need it to go. And the framework actually can be downloaded. You guys should know that here now at the GitHub account. At my GitHub account here, NADVOLOD, and it's the Light POM framework tutorial. This is the one we worked on. And then there's also another framework called Framework, which you can also download. This is like an extra clean version of our framework that does what we need it to do. This is just another example that you can look at. And this one is the one we worked on throughout our tutorial, and the one we enhanced, and the one we developed all of our tests. And this is just a lighter one that just had 1 or 2 tests in there, just for your example, if you want to take a look at this one and this one for difference. But this is the main one to use to follow along through all of the lectures. So I also really want to talk about the automation testing best practices, which are crucial, I mean crucial, to you guys writing good tests. If you aren't following these practices, then your tests are probably really bad. And you need to follow these practices so that your tests can be more reliable, more readable, easier to run, and easier to debug. At the end of the day, just making your job that much easier. And not only your job, everyone else's job who has to look at those tests, they get the benefit of enjoying such nice code. And yes, there are quite a few principles to follow, but if you just apply one principle at a time to your tests, you will get the hang of it and you will remember all of them. So the very first one that we talked about was how you should name your tests so that you know what functionality is being tested and the expected outcome of the behavior. When writing a test, you need to make sure that it fails, and then you refactor it, and then you make sure that it passes. So this is just a standard test-driven development principle where you not only make sure that your test fails, you also make sure that it passes. It's critical that you know that your test does both correctly, not that it just passes, right? If you don't know that it can fail, then your test is completely useless because it's not providing you any safety blanket.